everyone. This is episode 5 of our 5-week course for education for wedding vendors. And we're gonna talk about some things that are a little bit taboo, which I am so excited about because I love talking about controversial stuff. It's not even controversial, but it's stuff that people may think, but they don't want to talk about. So the first thing that I'm going to get into that I'm very, very passionate about is people's weddings are not your styled shoots. And I know that when I say that, people are like, well, duh. But the reason why I say that is because you are there to serve the couple. You're not there to take them off for an hour and a half to get your epic photos to fill your feed and to fill your portfolio. And it can be the opposite too, where people, where photographers or other wedding vendors are like, I just don't like this wedding, because it doesn't fit my style. I'm not a barn wedding type vendor. And that kind of mindset is very toxic and it's not professional. And I think we need to reframe ourselves and think this is the most special day of someone's life. And if it's not your style, that's okay. But the other reason why I say that is because I know wedding planners who will now not refer photographers because they've taken their couple for an hour and a half to go take photos on their wedding day away from their guests, and all of the other vendors need to do their job. The couples, guests are there waiting to eat, and they have to wait till they come back. So that's an extreme case. But I know that when you're in the wedding industry, sometimes you can get that whole mindset of ooh, this is gonna look really good on my feed. And I understand that, we've all been through that, but really work on reframing your mindset to be there of service and that you're a professional providing something for someone who's paying you, and that you're there to work with a team, a videographer, or other people who are making that wedding day happen. And so that's just something that I think is really important to keep in the back of your mind, because sometimes we do get to that point. Not hardcore, but a little bit.
Oh, absolutely. And I love what you said is it's not your show. And I think that's so important. By no means are we saying not to hype them up, not to, have those epic shots. Absolutely. We go to weddings that are your dream weddings and you're like, man, this is awesome. Just don't lose focus. Don't let those things then take an hour and a half for couple photos when there were 30 minutes in the timeline, because you're feeling like it's your show and you're getting everything that looks good on your Instagram, while all of these other vendors, they had 30 minutes and they had things that they needed to do to do their job, and you're here to serve the couple best. So like we said, hype up your couples. Absolutely. There are gonna be those shots that are dream shots, but don't lose that focus because it's not your show. You're here to help everyone else to make the couple have the best day ever. And I love when you said people's weddings are not your style shoot. If you go into a wedding and you think, man, this wedding is just not my favorite, I just am not having a good time, I just really didn't want to shoot, example, this barn wedding. Why are you there? Why did you book that wedding? That's on you. That is not okay. That is not okay. Don't book weddings just to make money.
Right.
Do not book weddings just to make money, or that is gonna become a dreadful feeling really quick. And don't do that to the couple. That is not okay. You need to understand that you cannot make somebody be your ideal client. If you have someone come in that says, hey, I'm gonna use an example, and this is totally my personal opinion. I do not shoot a lot of country weddings. Like I said, I'm not saying there's right or wrong or good or bad. That's just not my style. So if I have a couple who comes in who is having that type of style of wedding, I know that I'm not the right fit for them. And that's okay. I'm not going to sit here and say, yep, everything sounds great, awesome, here's the invoice, let's get you going. And then I'm sitting here trying to persuade them to do different things, trying to fit them into this ideal client that I wanted to, and I'm completely changing their wedding day, and that's not okay. So like what we said, they're not your style shoots. Make sure that the weddings that you're booking are your ideal clients, that they are couples that you want to shoot, because as I said over and over and over again, it's wrong for you to do the couple if you book them when they're not your ideal client and you just book them for money, because you're gonna start to feel like it becomes a really dreadful job really quickly when you're going to weddings and thinking, oh, this is not my style. Oh, I shouldn't have shot this. Oh, I don't wanna be here. That's not okay, and that's not the mindset, and you really need to know that.
Yeah, and if you do feel that way, then especially at most weddings, then maybe reevaluating if this is the right career. I know that's like harsh to say, but not necessarily the right career, but maybe you're taking on too much, or maybe you haven't really found what your style is or who you connect with the most, because it is important for you to have the right fit with your couple, but they need to feel like they chose someone that's the right fit for them.
Exactly.
And so you don't want to, like what Emma said, just do it because of the money. You need to work with couples that you know you're truly going to connect with and serve the best. And sometimes that says, hey, I don't think we're the right fit, but I do know a few videographers or photographers that would really work well with you. Or, if they tell you, hey, we're gonna have a nighttime ceremony, and you're like, oh my gosh, I am not comfortable with flash. I'm not comfortable with constant lights. That's not my style. Then that's good to know. You can say, hey, that's not really my style. I'm a natural light photographer. I recommend these other photographers who would probably do a better job than me. And your couple is really gonna respect that and feel like you cared about them over the money. So just really think about that.
Absolutely. And when you're first starting, you probably don't know what you like and what you don't like.
Yeah.
You probably don't know your style. And so being able to, you just need to have a positive mindset throughout the entire time. Maybe you go to, and like I'm saying, I'm just using this as an example. Maybe you go to a country wedding that for me is not my style. You never know until you know, but still have that positive attitude, still give your couple the very best that you can, because that's what they deserve. And then later on, reevaluate and say, okay, maybe I don't want to shoot these Vogue weddings, or I'm not in the luxury market. I don't want to shoot elopements. Just reevaluate and really define your brand. But it is really important to make sure that these weddings are not your style shoots, and you cannot make potential clients your ideal clients if they're not already.
Yeah, totally.
Woo, I feel like we could go on and on and on.
Yes.
Okay, so the next topic that we wanted to go into is taking care of yourself. The wedding industry can be toxic. It can be exhausting on you. Social media can be exhausting on you. I mean, look at the time that we're living in. It's a lot to take in. It's a lot to handle. It's a lot to understand. It is so important to take time for yourself. And I really would love, you had something so good to say about this that I'd love for you to kind of go into this, but really take care of yourself first.
Yeah, so for me, I know that when people like step off of social media for a few days, or they're like overwhelmed, they let everyone know, and they're like, I just need a break, which that's totally fine to do. Like, you can let people know if you want, there's nothing wrong with that. But for me, if I take a break from social media and then I pop back on 3 days later, I don't give an explanation as to why I took that break, because I don't owe that to anyone. You do not owe this audience that you have an explanation as to why you needed a break to take care of yourself. You deserve that as a human right. And so I think that we can get to a point where we're like, oh no, I'll have people unfollow me, or they'll want to know, and if I don't, then I'm not competing with everyone and I'm gonna lose potential bookings. And for me, I want to look back on my life and say that I enjoyed as much time with my family, or as much time being healthy as possible. And if you're off of social media and you lose a booking, or you think, oh my gosh, these people are gonna be upset with me, they're not the ones that are paying your bills. They're not the ones that are gonna take you to therapy if you need therapy or counseling. You have to do that for yourself, and taking care of yourself, you don't owe anyone an explanation for. So just keep that in the back of your mind, just because it is it can be crazy making. Social media, competing at the business level can be crazy making, but you don't owe anyone an explanation to take care of yourself.
Absolutely. I honestly couldn't have said that any better. And it's something that like I to this day struggle with is, I have to get to everybody in my DMs. Like right now, everybody, I have to answer everyone. And we're always there for our clients.
Yeah.
They're paying our bills.
Yeah.
We're always there for them. But like social media, when you have this audience of people, you don't owe anyone an explanation. Take a few days off, take some time off. You have to take care of yourself. And especially, in the world that we live in, take time for you because mental health is so important, and you can burn out if you constantly feel like you have to uphold these expectations and post once a day on social media. It's a lot and it gets really overwhelming, and don't let that overwhelm you to the point where you're feeling this dreadful burnt out feeling of I just can't do this anymore.
Yeah. And it's super easy to let that overwhelm you, especially with comparison. Because I know that when I started out, I compared my work to so many photographers that I looked up to, and I was like, if only I could get my photos to look like this, then everything would be great. Yep. If only I could get these couples that are just so carefree in front of the camera, if only I could book this venue, then everything would be good. And I can tell you, it won't. It's not gonna bring in the thousands and thousands of Instagram followers. And if you are looking like everyone else, then you're not going to stand out. So one thing that really resonated with me, and it may not resonate with other people, is a photographer that I look up to, and I'm gonna butcher his name, for Jurosti. I will have his Instagram linked and everything. He did a podcast interview where he said, someone asked him about comparison and the burnout. And he said during the wedding season, he will not scroll on Instagram at all. He'll post and respond to messages, but he refuses to scroll and look at any other photographer's work. And at first I was like, wow, he's kind of like hoity-toity there. But when I listened to him a little bit more, he was like, I want my work to be my work and pure and not influenced by other people. And that's what sets me apart. And so even subconsciously, if I have other people's photos in my mind, then I'm wanting to recreate what they do and not truly create something unique for my couples. And I was like, okay, that is really cool. And it just makes sense. Like, we're not ever going to be like Emma or someone else that we look up to because we don't shoot the same way or do things the same way. And when we keep trying and keep failing, that really is super toxic. And so do whatever you need to make yourself feel better. Unfollow accounts or mute them or just don't go on altogether. But no one is gonna take care of your mental health except for you. So you have to take those steps and not feel guilty about it, because prioritizing your mental health is not something to feel guilty about.
Absolutely. And you are so fortunate enough to run your own business. You're so fortunate enough to be your own boss, to make your own decisions. And with that being said, you get to control what you do. And so if that means taking a break, take a break. If that means unfollowing an Instagram account because you're consistently comparing yourself to them and it's unhealthy, unfollow them. There is no right or wrong when it comes to taking care of yourself. So yeah, I can't say it, we can't stress it enough. It's so important to take care of yourself and don't feel like you're having to uphold all of these constant expectations that the internet and social media can sometimes give you.
Yeah, and they're not really putting it on you. You're imagining it and putting it on yourself, which is so crazy how that works. But that brings me into the next part of this. So taking care of yourself is important, but also taking care of your vendor friends. And I know what I'm about to say is going to make some photographers be like, I can't believe you do that.
I'm pumped. I'm ready. Let's go.
And so for me, like, I try to look at what is going to help my vendor friends the most. And so, for example, one of my florist friends has more of a bright and airy feed. for her Instagram. And my edits are a little bit more muted and contrasty and a little bit darker. And so I will edit a few photos of close-ups of her bouquets and florals in the kind of style that she can put on her feed. And I know photographers are like, well, if you are tagged in that and someone looks at you, then that photo isn't consistent with your style. I know. And it is more important to me that my florist friend can have a cohesive feed or put a photo onto her website that fits her style. And she doesn't even have to tag me. I want to help her grow her business. And so sometimes taking care of your vendor friends means that you're not necessarily promoting yourself, but helping them push their business forward. And yes, I understand all of the cons that are associated with it, but I would rather help a friend out and maybe not be tagged in that photo than her not have a photo of the beautiful work that she did. Because I've had a lot of florists tell me they have clients that come to them and they're like, hey, can you make this bouquet for me? I love these colors. And the florist is like, yeah, that color doesn't exist in reality. It was just the edit. And the couple's like, oh, which is not a bad thing. Those kinds of edits, there's nothing wrong with them. But I know that, that is a pain point for some florists. So I like to help out. And there's nothing wrong with that, but you can do that or not. It's totally up to you. But there's other things that you can do, like taking headshots of your vendor friends, putting them on your preferred vendor list, or if you're not a florist, but your florist friend really needs an extra hand to load all of the florals in and out, go and help them. Like it goes so far when you're a kind, helpful human.
Absolutely. Like I feel like it's so heavily about the relationship that you have with them. Yeah. We have vendors that we work with a lot that we absolutely love and adore and would refer without a doubt. Now, maybe their feed, like Cassie was saying, she has a florist who she works a lot with. They've built a great relationship. Just because the florist's photo style doesn't match Cassie's doesn't mean that they can't work together or nor that they don't want to work together. It's when you've got those really solid built relationships with these vendors, sometimes you have to go outside the box to help them because you want to continuously work with them and you want to be here for them. And like we said, we're not telling you that's what you have to do, by no means. This is just us telling you, from our own perspectives, the way we look at it. But when you've got those solid relationships with your vendors, what can you do to uphold that relationship and keep it going, and how can you help them? Which totally goes in to what the last thing that we want to talk about, which is really don't get shiny object syndrome with styled shoots. There's a lot that goes into styled shoots. And when you are new, or even when you're built, let's say you have completely niched out to an elopement photographer, you only do adventure sessions, don't put in time and invest your money in a shoot that isn't going to portray your brand and your value and your missions.
Yeah.
And it kind of goes back and forth with what we were saying earlier, is that there are things that we'll do to go outside of the box and to help those vendors that we've built these strong relationships with that are so worth upholding. And it's not that the others aren't, but for me as a wedding and elopement videographer, do I have time to do a styled shoot and invest my time and invest my money in a styled shoot that doesn't match my vision? Why would I do that? You have to really be careful about it, because whoever is planning this styled shoot, they've got visions, they've got dreams, they're excited, they're pumped, they know what they're looking for. If you're not, it's the same thing. If you're not the right fit for them, then don't do it. Don't invest your time and money in there when it really doesn't go with your brand.
Yeah, and also, if you are the one who's putting the shoot together, or you're collaborating with a planner or a florist to bring a vision to life, it's really easy to just put a shoot together, and you may do it just for the creative joy, which is so fun. And I'm actually about to do a shoot that I'm not gonna try and get published. It's just to try some stuff out for fun. And those shoots are very valuable. But if you're investing a lot of money and a lot of vendors are involved,
Yes.
then it's probably worthwhile to think first, what publication do I want to submit this to? Because you want to be able to get recognition, you want to get eyes on it. And also, if you ever take a course, an SEO course, Catalina Jean, on SEO, you'll learn that getting the backlinks from getting a publication like on green wedding shoes, that backlink back to your website actually boosts your SEO a lot. So that is another reason why you'd want to put together a styled shoot for a really big publication, but keep in mind, what is their style? What is the editing style that they typically put onto their website? Because like green wedding shoes is a little bit more edgy, editorial, a little bit more warmer editing, whereas Style Me Pretty or Ruffled blog is more light and airy and not edgy, it's more traditional. So you need to really figure out which publication first, and then start making something unique based around what their readers might want to see, and then choose the vendors from there. And the next thing is that the shiny object syndrome, sometimes you'll have a vision for a mood board that you really want to get published on green wedding shoes, but then you're like, oh, hey, what if we add this hat? What if we add a motorcycle? What if we add a flamingo? Like, I don't think anyone's ever done that, but I'm just saying, like, if it doesn't end up fitting that mood board, then one, the vendors who are part of it might end up being disappointed because it wasn't this exciting thing that they dreamed about. And two, it may not make sense at all when you're starting to add in random things because you're like, oh, I went to Crate and Barrel and found these really pretty candles, but they're not the color at all of the mood board. You really need to be laser focused on that mood board, only source things that go along with it, and don't do anything else. Like, very, very clear. Otherwise, it ends up being such a waste of time and money.
Yeah, be intentional. Like, I think all of it like comes back to, you know, like really being intentional. What do you want to get out of the style shoot? Whether you're hosting it or someone else is hosting it, is this going to benefit you just solely for the purpose of being creative, of just solely for the purpose of getting to network and just meet new people? Is this something where you get to create whatever you want? Yeah, be creative, try something new. Are you doing this to get published? Are you doing this to use it for content that you want to market with your brand? There's lots of different routes, you know, and it's kind of that saying, being intentional. If you want to be a part of a style shoot that you're going to use to market content on your Instagram, then make sure it's the style you want. Yeah. If you're new and you solely just want to get your foot in the door and network with others and get to try things out and be creative, then you've got more like the ability to be more lenient on where you go. But really, don't waste your time and money based upon the goal that you want, like the benefit that you want to reach from the style shoot.
Yeah. And if you are really struggling and you do want to do a styled shoot, then, you know, go back to that vision board that I talked about in another video, where you're like, okay, I want to put a styled shoot together to attract the kind of couples that like this style or like my style. Use your vision board to create a shoot. That way it matches your brand, matches your vision, and you're very clear about what kind of photos you want to create that your dream couple might end up wanting as well. And be very thoughtful about the venue too, because, you know, if you're wanting to shoot it at a venue that you've never shot at before, but you would love to book couples that are there, then I would be very specific and intentional about choosing the venue as well, because you can blog about that venue and then people find you online and see that you've shot at that venue and then they want to work with you. So that's like another like very intentional rationale behind where and why you do a styled shoot. And I could go on and on into that, but like, don't just do it and waste your time and money. Like, use it as a tool to grow your business. That's what it's really there for.
Yes, yep. Find the reason behind it, find your goal, find your mission, and that's where you know what you want to invest your time and what you want to invest your money in. Guys, I can't even believe it. It's been 5 weeks, 5 amazing episodes. Woo! Thank you so much for being a part of this whole experience. We would love to know what are your thoughts? How much, like, did you enjoy this? What did you find beneficial? Please let us know in the comments below if you want more. Like, we really want to give back and help, and from our own experiences. And so thank you so much for being here.
Thank you.
We've loved it, and we will talk to you soon.
Bye.